Have you ever felt imperfect? Ever felt like you needed a touch of grace to get through the day? These are universal feelings, aren't they? We've all had those moments of self-doubt, feeling like we're not quite up to par. This sense of imperfection, the yearning for grace and acceptance, is beautifully captured in a hymn from the Congregação Cristã no Brasil, or CCB, a well-known Brazilian evangelical church. The hymn is called Sou Servo Inútil, ou Deus Piedoso, which translates to, I am a useless servant, merciful God. It's a poignant expression of the human condition, acknowledging our shortcomings and asking for God's forgiveness and cleansing. It also underscores our deep-seated desire to be accepted and made righteous through divine intervention. This hymn is part of the CCB's Hymnario 5, a collection of hymns used in the church's services. Today, we delve into the depths of this beautiful hymn. The hymn begins with a powerful confession, I am a useless servant, merciful God. This opening line is not a statement of despair, but rather a recognition of human frailty and the need for divine grace. It is a profound admission of our limitations and a plea for God's mercy. In the context of this hymn, the term useless servant is not a derogatory label, but a humble acknowledgement of our human imperfections. It is a reminder that, despite our best efforts, we fall short and are in need of God's forgiveness. The next line, I am always weak, I feel lacking, further emphasizes this sentiment. The believer acknowledges his or her constant state of weakness and insufficiency, reinforcing the need for divine intervention. It is in this state of acknowledged weakness that the believer becomes open to the transformative power of divine mercy. This is followed by, in this imprudence, I plead for mercy. The believer is acknowledging their mistakes and shortcomings and is imploring God for mercy. The plea for mercy is not just for forgiveness, but also for guidance and wisdom to avoid repeating these mistakes. The phrase, cleanse my soul, I cry out to you, Lord, is the believer's plea for spiritual cleansing. It is an appeal for God to wash away the stains of past mistakes, to renew and purify the soul. This cleansing is not a superficial one, but a deep, transformative process that changes the believer from the inside out. I am a useless servant, an imperfect servant, the hymn continues. I live anxious to be accepted. Here the believer expresses a deep desire to be accepted by God, despite their imperfections. This acceptance is not based on personal merit, but on God's grace and mercy. You can cleanse me, justify me. If you will it, nothing will hinder. This line reaffirms the believer's trust in God's power to cleanse and make them righteous. It is a statement of faith that, with God, nothing is impossible. This opening sets the tone for the hymn, a humble plea for divine intervention. The hymn continues with the line, I live anxious to be accepted. This part of the hymn delves into a universal human yearning, the longing for acceptance. It's a humble confession of the believer's imperfection and a heartfelt plea to be embraced as they are, despite their flaws and weaknesses. In the context of this hymn, acceptance is not about being accepted by the world or by other people. Instead, it's a deep-seated desire to be accepted by God, to be seen as worthy in His eyes. It's about seeking validation not from worldly achievements or human approval, but from divine love and mercy. This is where the believer's journey towards acceptance takes a unique turn. It's not about self-improvement or personal achievement. Rather, it's about acknowledging one's limitations and entrusting one's life into God's hands. It's about surrendering to His will, believing in His power to cleanse, to heal, and to make one righteous. The hymn emphasizes that this acceptance, this righteousness, is not something that can be attained through human effort. It is not a reward for good deeds or a prize for moral excellence. It's a gift, a grace that comes only from God. The believer acknowledges, you can cleanse me, justify me. If you will it, nothing will hinder. These lines encapsulate the essence of faith, the trust in God's power to transform, to purify, and to accept. This part of the hymn is a powerful reminder of the transformative power of divine acceptance. It's not about changing who we are to fit into a mold. Instead, it's about allowing God's love to change us from within, to make us righteous in His sight, to grant us the acceptance we yearn for. The believer's longing for acceptance is a powerful theme that resonates with many. It's a testament to our shared human experience, a reminder of our shared need for grace, and a celebration of the divine love that accepts us as we are. The hymn concludes with a heartfelt plea, This your child begs for help, hear my plea, compassion, Lord. This final part of the hymn is a raw and touching expression of the believer's deep need for divine aid and mercy. It's a poignant reminder that, despite our efforts, there are times when we simply cannot navigate life's challenges on our own. We are all, in our own ways, useless servants on a path that can often feel overwhelming. The plea for help is more than just a cry for assistance in times of trouble. It's an admission of our human inadequacy, a recognition of our inability to attain righteousness without divine intervention. The believer, in acknowledging their own weaknesses, is expressing a profound truth about the human condition. We are all flawed, and we all fall short. But this plea is not a cry of despair. Rather, it's a humble and hopeful appeal to a merciful God, a God who is believed to care deeply for his children, even in their weakest moments. It's a plea to be seen, to be heard, to be accepted and loved despite our shortcomings. The request for compassion speaks volumes about the believer's understanding of God's nature. It's not a demand for justice or retribution, but a plea for mercy, for understanding, for grace. This is a God who is believed to be not just a judge, but a loving parent, one who is moved by the cries of his children. It's a plea that recognizes that our journey is not just about striving for perfection, but about seeking grace in our imperfections. It's about acknowledging our need for divine help, not just in times of crisis, but in our everyday, ordinary struggles. The hymn ends not with a statement of faith or a declaration of victory, but with a plea for help and compassion. It's a plea that is both deeply personal and universally relatable, a plea that speaks to the core of our shared human experience. This plea serves as a powerful reminder of the believer's dependence on divine help and compassion. So, what does Sou Servo Inútil, O Deus Piedoso, tell us about the believer's journey? As we've explored in the previous scenes, this hymn embodies a heartfelt cry for mercy, a deep longing for acceptance, and a plea for help. These themes are woven into the fabric of the believer's journey, reflecting their struggles, hopes, and desires. This hymn is not just a song, it's a confession. It's a candid admission of the believer's imperfections. They acknowledge their weakness, their lacking, their imprudence. They recognize their inability to navigate the path of life alone and their need for divine care and guidance. This confession, while humbling, is also liberating. It's a step towards self-awareness and growth, a step towards divine grace. The hymn also echoes a plea for mercy. The believer in their imperfection implores God for forgiveness and cleansing. They cry out to their Lord, seeking his compassion and mercy. This plea is not just a request for forgiveness, but also a testament to the believer's humility and their recognition of God's boundless love and mercy. Furthermore, this hymn encapsulates a profound desire for acceptance. The believer is anxious to be accepted, to be justified, to be made righteous through God's power. They yearn for God's approval, his acceptance, his love. This desire for acceptance, while deeply personal, is also universal. It resonates with all of us, believers or not. In reflecting on these themes, we can see how they mirror our own journeys. We all have our imperfections, our moments of weakness, our need for grace. We all yearn for acceptance, for love, for validation. In the end, this hymn is not just a confession of imperfection, but also a testament to the power of grace and acceptance. It's a reminder that despite our flaws, we are worthy of love and acceptance, and that through grace we can find the strength to overcome our shortcomings and embrace our journey with hope and faith.